we got another one of them. Popping at the mouth or the side of his neck when he pouts, no argument, no.
Welcome to New Mexico Black Rifle Operators Union. I'm your host, Sean. So, I hope you had an awesome Thanksgiving day and the break that's been going on. You know, I've had 4 days off and it's been pretty cool. I've gotten a lot of writing done on the novel I'm trying to get done, just as a goal. But as I was saying Wednesday about being thankful about what's been going on in the 2A community, we've had some other wins that have happened. Ballot Measure 114 in Oregon, which was a magazine ban, was batted down. Now, why is that important for people like us in New Mexico or anywhere else? Well, other states, New Mexico in particularly, likes to copy and paste from other people's work to try to pass unjust gun laws in New Mexico or any other state. And having one beaten down so summarily as the one in Oregon is a good sign for us. It shows that there's case precedent. It also shows that there's ways and legal ways to get around bans, such as a magazine ban, because people like our governor in New Mexico, this is a hot button item for them, and they're going to try to do it during the next session in the Roundhouse in January. So things that it gives us ammunition to fight the battles we need to fight. The other thing that happened was Maryland has been one of the most restrictive places for concealed carry or for getting a gun, and they basically smacked down pre-purchasing licensing as well as having a license or their methodology of having a license to carry a gun. These were big, huge wins for us and are continuing to be big, huge wins for us. We have the Fifth Circuit Court, which found that pistol braces, so this is Vanderstock v. Bruin, or Vanderstock v. Garland, or Mock v. Garland, one of the two. One of them's the pistol brace, and one of them's the frame and receiver rule, both of which were smacked down by courts. What's cool about the pistol brace one being ruled on in the Fifth Circuit is that they're going to have to go back to the Fifth Circuit to appeal this, and that means that that same court that said no multiple times is probably going to say no, so the pistol brace thing is enjoined nationally right now and will probably be enjoined or killed completely. But what we need to talk about today is something that is a little more pressing, because it's something that we have to do periodically. The ATF, and I say this as a gun owner, we have to do. If you're a good gun owner, you will go and do this. So the ATF routinely puts out rule changes, and when they do that, they routinely have to put out, because it's law, that they have to put it up for comment. Now, in the past, they've done stuff where they were trying to ban green tip M855 ammo. That's what Obama wanted to do. And there was enough comments that came out and said no, that they found that untenable. Same thing happened with the frame and brace rule, or the frame and receiver rule. And they were talking about being able to regulate other things other than frames and receivers. They were talking about triggers, stocks, the shape of stocks, not necessarily the length of gun. That's already covered under the NFA. But they're trying to pass one right now that says it is for a universal mandated registration check for any gun sale that they predetermine you profited from. Now, I've talked about this in the past where they were looking really hard at who was required to have an FFL, and now they're trying to put this into a rule, and now is our chance to go up and speak about it. So be polite, be professional, try not to use a form letter. If you do use a form letter, I understand if you're not that articulate. I've used form letters before for this type of thing. Gun Owners of America has one. Firearms Policy Coalition, I'm sure, has one for this. But what they're trying to do, in no short order, is to make it any sale you make where you could have of a firearm, even if you went through an FFL to get a background check, because you profited from this, you may now be required to have a federal firearms license. That's not how it was ever intended to be. That's not how it ever should be. And unless you're running a business, you shouldn't have an FFL. Okay? At least in my humble opinion. I personally think that if you're just exchanging property, it shouldn't matter. But the federal government has to get involved in everything, so therefore this is a big deal. These are the things I have for you right now. You know, if you've been paying attention to the fun stuff that's been going on. Brandon Herrera and Colion Noir and Donut Operator went and visited gun buybacks, and they weren't very well welcomed. First off, the people were pissed off that these guys showed up to try to purchase firearms before other people would, and they were offering cold hard cash instead of gift cards. What surprised me about this is that people that were wanting to get rid of firearms were more interested in going through the process to get a gift card than to get cold hard cash. This tells me that these people that are going to hand in their guns are already brainwashed. They're already of the volition that they're doing something noble by handing in a firearm. More often than not, at one of these gun buybacks, what you see are hunting rifles and junk guns. Every once in a while, you'll find someone, a grandma or a grandpa, someone who's older, who has a historically significant firearm, and they don't ever use it, they have no intention of ever using it, and they're wanting to give it away to one of these gun buyback things because they themselves see this as a good thing. Now, I've heard horror stories of STG-44s. If you don't know what that is, that's the first assault weapon that was ever made, and they're rarer than winter roses. This was a German assault weapon, a 7.92 by 33. I've heard of them being turned in at gun buybacks. I've heard about trophy guns, such as MG42s, that were legally registered after the war and were capable of being exchanged, being taken to gun buybacks and destroyed. Now, these are historical firearms. In Brandon Herrera's case, someone had a brand new Uzi from the 80s with the paperwork that said it was perfectly okay to sell and transfer to someone else, so it was an NFA registered item. And they turned it in for $150 worth of gift certificates to be destroyed. Now, unfortunately, any of these gun buyback things, they're going to destroy those firearms. So we lost yet another fully automatic weapon when we can't get very much access to those anyway because of a gun buyback, because someone was ignorant and didn't understand the historical significance of what they had, and they were more so concerned with trying to do the quote-unquote good thing. Now, personally, I don't have a problem with gun buybacks because I don't see them being very relevant. They're only disarming the most stupid people on planet Earth, the ones that would willingly give up their guns and willingly board the cattle car anyway. However, when it comes to historically significant firearms, I have a huge problem with this. Because of the nature of gun buybacks, where they're going to have to destroy them because that's statute, that's what they have to do, there's a potential to lose a lot of these historically significant firearms like that STG-44 or, that Uzi even, because they don't understand how much of a part of history this is. Some of these should be in the museum, or should be in a museum, I should say, but they can't be because people don't know what they've got. There's a lot of firearms from World War II, World War I, Vietnam, that have made it in the United States as captures, as war trophies. And no one understands what they were, other than, gun aficionados. So it's horrible to think that someone who thinks they're doing the right thing could take one of these very historically significant firearms and trade it for a Starbucks gift card for all intents and purposes and have it destroyed rather than it being enjoyed by someone who appreciates it, or it going to a museum or someplace that can actually appreciate what it is. So that was something I saw. What was more interesting, that was interesting of itself, but to see the reaction of law enforcement agents at these places that are guarding these places or running these gun buybacks. Some of them were very friendly to us, which we all know there's a lot of gun guys that are, officers who have nothing, they have nothing but love for us in the 2A, us people in the 2A, that is. Then there's a lot of them that have a lot of disrespect for us. And you saw that in both cases, where these officers would just as likely throw you in jail as they would to help you, even though you did nothing wrong. This speaks to that back the blue element of our society in the 2A that needs to really start doing some soul searching. Because as much as I love officers and considered being a cop for a long time, the hard, cold reality is the people that are going to come to get your guns are the cops that you once supported or you do support. If anything, you should have learned this from the COVID stuff. After seeing your country, your city, your county, your job maybe, shut down because the government mandated it, what happens in the future when a tyrant comes in and says said item, whatever it is, needs to be banned and we're going door to door to get it? Now, that sets off a chain of events in the United States that I don't think our federal government's ready for or could handle. But that doesn't mean that those people so blindly obedient to the government wouldn't at least try to do it. And that would be one of the most bloody things possible. I don't foresee us going to war with ourselves. I don't foresee us getting into a civil war. Because we all know, both sides know, how bloody that would actually be. Now, there are some zealots on both sides that will try to push for that. And anyone with a brain actually looks at this and looks at the logistical tales from both sides and looks at the blind repercussions that would happen from said action. We're already in a precarious place because of our government in the international world. We're facing some of the highest inflation rates the United States has ever faced. Why is that? It's because of policy that our government has put down because of presidents who rolled that policy down. We have an unemployment rate which doesn't match what it should. We have a place right now where we're seeing the service industries being ransacked for people to work. No one wants to go back to work after getting the having the benefits that they were given to them during the COVID stuff. There's that. And then there's also, on the corporate side, a lot of people don't realize that they're going to have to pay more for people to work for them. Some people can't do that. Some corporations, mom and pop places, can't. So we're seeing more and more the degradation of customer service. Go to a restaurant, any restaurant, pick one of your choice, and you'll see that the level of service and level of care that we once got isn't there. Go get tires. See the level of care and service you once got. I remember a day where people were very happy and cheerful to go do stuff for you. Now that isn't the case. And while we just celebrated the world, we should be being grateful for what we have, and you should be so grateful for what we have. I am. We're in a place where people will go after the most avarice of things right now. They're looking for those retail purchasing things that they think is going to make them happier. It's not. I'm about to turn 46, and in my 46 years of living, one thing I've noticed is that the accumulation of things doesn't make you a better person, doesn't make you a happier person. What does is those people around you, those moments that you have with your friends and your family, being invited to places, even though if you can't make it to them. In my case, I was invited to a couple dinners that I couldn't make it to because I ended up hosting my own. And as I hosted my own, I couldn't break off to go away. I was fortunate enough that my youngest son spent the better part of a day with me when he was only supposed to be here for an hour or two. That made my Thanksgiving Day special to me. That's the stuff we're willing to fight for. Having the Second Amendment for the next generation, advocating for the Second Amendment and all of our rights, is important to me for my kids to have, for the next generation to have. That legacy that we pass on from father to son, father to daughter, as a male, that is, mother to son, mother to daughter, is important. And it's something that we need to get back to in our country because we're losing a lot of that. Everybody is so entangled in that perfect Instagram picture or that perfect Facebook life when they realize that, most of us realize that life isn't so black and white and isn't so Norman Rockwell. Nature is metal as hell. The rule of nature is metal as hell. The only thing that saves mankind from being that way are our own morals and our own facets of humanity. Where do we get them? We get them from one another. We get them from our faith. That should be reflected through everything we do, including the Second Amendment. Don't let anybody tell you that you're not a good person because you own a firearm. Because the sad fact of the matter is, the reason why we own firearms is because there's a lot of bad people in the world. And we have to defend ourselves, the people we love, the ideals that matter to us. We are the sheepdogs. We are the sheepdogs that always will stand fast. And while we may be portly and out of shape, a sheepdog who's portly out of shape has one hell of a bite when it gets down to it. It's time to make all these politicians, these people that don't believe in American values and don't believe in the United States as it once was and as it can be again, to stand fast and hold to. These are our morals. These are the founding pieces of our country. And despite what all these people think about a United States that has never been great, it has always been great. And if you don't believe me, look at where people come from those bad places. You don't see, when the wall fell in Germany, you didn't see them going towards the east, towards Russia. No, they came towards the west, towards freedom. And while our freedoms are severely limited from where they once were, we still have a hell of a lot more than other places do. We have a lot more to be thankful for and a lot more to be grateful for in our country than we ever should think we don't. Like, share, subscribe, but most importantly, be great.